You know, we've been operating for a while here. Assembly is complete. We're really focusing on utilization, and we need you, the community, to help us find new, creative, and innovative ways to use this space station. It clearly directly benefits humanity. It allows us to prepare for human exploration beyond low Earth orbit, and it provides discovery science goals. On the next chart, I have a couple of the things that are going on in space. One is the Neurospat science mission in the Columbus laboratory of the space station. It's Andre Kuiper's performing that activity. Again, that helps us understand a little bit about vestibular stability and vestibular interaction in the microgravity environment, which can actually help us here on the Earth. Then over on the right there's the Robonaut, which is a dexterous robot with hands. He's sitting there in front of an instrumentation panel, so he can actually throw switches and maneuver things and manipulate things. Again, this is an interesting robotic technology we're doing. We at NASA worked on Robonaut with the General Motors Corporation. They had a need for a robot with a dexterous hand to actually help with installation of sound panels inside automobile doors. So they had a desire for this same kind of technology. We, NASA, worked with them to essentially develop this robot that's in space. We also have Dexter on the outside of Space Station, which is more of an industrial robot. You would see it, instead of having a hand or a dexterous hand, you would see it with an end effector, very much like a robot that you would see in an industrial manufacturing plant. So again, we get to experiment with both of these things in space. And then lastly, we're watching some plant growth things. Again, the microgravity environment gives us a unique chance to see how plants develop in space, how they develop without gravity, and then that can affect essentially how we modify plants or genetically engineer plants here on the ground. So another just a great chance for us to innovate and have real benefits to us here on the Earth. In the next chart, I have some more benefits that we see. There's clearly water filtration systems. You've seen that we've been able to take our water filtration systems to other areas, to remote locations, and help with water purification. We have plastic-like metals that are starting to be used in sporting goods and also in jewelry. We have some aviation systems that are being put together for pilots. And then we also have, again, some more robotic activities where there's actually the ability to do some surgery to help the surgeon with the tremors that they feel in their hands when they're doing microsurgery. A robot assist can help with those activities. And again, the technology, the control algorithms that we developed for space have some applications there. So I think that's all I'll talk about really at this point. These are just some things that we can do with Space Station. The point is, it's up to us to get creative, to understand the unique properties of microgravity, and to get clever on what kind of experiments we can go do and operate in space. So again, there's some more details on these activities up here, and you can look up the websites and get some information. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you.
So Annie, also, good morning. I need also the first slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and honor for me to be in this prestigious line over here and to say some words about space and how it can improve the quality of life. But I would even more say a little bit what we should think about in all these activities. Can you please give me the first one? Should I make the next one? Or how does it work? Yes, it is. So if we are talking about benefits for life, we should look what are the challenges. And here you see a big list of challenges, and space is really tackling all these challenges. But even there are more challenges, and there is one more challenge which I would like to name, and this is curiosity of mankind, or as we say in the knowledge for tomorrow. I know we are here in a club of believers. Therefore, I don't have to explain to you all these different aspects of space technology, space innovation, space communication, navigation, zero-G research, but also international cooperation, exploration, and science. I'm sure all of you believe this is the right mix and the right thing to do. However, there is a pressure of legitimation, and we have to face it. And especially if we look to human space flights, we have to face that there is a pressure of legitimation, mainly from the politicians less from the public. That's my experience. Public, at least whoever I met, are really fascinated from human space flights, and there is some reason for that. And the philosopher Eliot put it in very nice words when he said, "We will not cease from exploration until we come back to where we came from and see the place for the first time." So this is really something which is in our mind, and therefore also it was part of the Cold War. I'm sure that the exploration to go to the moon was more than just a competition between the Soviet Union at that time and the United States of America. It was also something which is in our heart to explore strange new worlds. But there was a next step, and I think this step was even more important, and that was the cooperation beyond earthly borders between Apollo and Soyuz docking, rendezvous and docking. It's similar. At the same time, Germany was also very active in that field. Maybe most of you don't know, but I will show you over that. At that time, we already had the precursor for the new capsule of NASA. It was called Orion. It was a famous movie in Germany. Why I'm showing it, look to the list of the different persons. The commander, Cliff Alistair McLean from America. The officer, Mario De Monti, it was 1966. From Italy, astrogator Atan Shubashi, it was never defined whether he came from Japan, Turkey or Azerbaijan. The engineer Hasso Sig Björnsen, Sweden, the Lieutenant Helga Leclerc, France, and again 1966, security officer Tamara Yagelovs from Russia, not Soviet Union. So you see, this was a visionary movie. But now we are very close to that with the International Space Station, and this is the picture I like most because we have the last space shuttle over there, we have Columbus over there, and we have the ATV. So Europe is in space. But of course the question is, are we stopping now? And I say no, we have to think about additional partners also for the International Space Station. We should have it as a global International Space Station, and not only of some partners. And another aspect is, of course, from space. We know that we have some ideas coming from space to space, like the travel to moon, but also some, what I was always calling the Teflon pan effect. I know Teflon pan does not come from space, but everybody understands what I mean, the Teflon pan effect. And we have to take this into consideration. So now, Bill already mentioned robots. And there are some famous robots, R2-D2, number 5, and Commander Data. And you will say, okay, R2-D2, we are well beyond that. Okay, number 5, okay, we can do it. And what about Commander Data? Are we ready to do it? Are we able to do it? The next picture shows the pioneer of robotics in DLR. It's Mr. Hirzinger. And just to say, it's the person on the right of the picture. You are laughing, but I'm not sure whether this is really true, because it might be some changes in the future between who is the robot and who is the guy. This is, again, it's very far away from what we are thinking. I will show you now a short movie. I know it's well beyond my time, but I will show it anyhow, because this is the one and only possibility. This movie, I will explain it before. I don't know the right words in English. It's a patient. She was very ill. She was locked in from here downside. I don't know how you call that in English. And I will never learn the word. I looked into the dictionary. I will never learn it. But you all understand. She cannot move anything. So what they did together with DLR and Brown University in Rhode Island, they put some sensors in the brain, really in the brain, and these sensors measured her brain activity, and by that she could move an arm, a robotic arm, and not just move it, but as you hopefully will see, she could do something which she could never do before. I hope it is working. No, it's not yet. I hope it will work, because otherwise it will work. And this was for the very first time in her life. She did not say to somebody, I would like to drink something, but she could directly decide, now I'm going to drink something. So if you consider this as a giant leap in understanding what we can do with robotics and human life, I think it's impressive what is possible. I hope you could see it, and therefore my conclusion for all of these activities: human spaceflight is of course part of cultural heritage of human curiosity. It is international cooperation and we should use it for that. It is medical research, as you already mentioned, Bill. It is, we can have a synergy between human and robot interaction, but also a combination of unmanned and manned activities should be in our mind. To use the ISS also for unmanned activities, which can be easily repaired and maintained by humans, is a successful story for the future, I'm sure. And also public outreach. If you look into how many young people were strong enough and brave enough after they saw Apollo to really enter natural science, informatics and technology, we should use it also for that purpose. And we should consider the direct and indirect impacts, Teflon pan, don't forget. So what we need is disruptive ideas. And this one is just showing that there are already some disruptive ideas.
Space, the final frontier.
You know all of this.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds.
The microphone is gone because of the water. Thank you, Dr. Can you hear me? No?
I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Bernard. You gave me a very good transition from the robotics and the robotics versus robotics and work together, the human beings, and transition to the medicine. Thank you. This is a great international cooperation. Because of the gravity, I'm so wet. Yeah. Well, I'm a Chiaki guy from Japanese Space Agency. And then, since my background is medicine, I would like to focus a little bit on the medicine and space medicine and human research. And JAXA, my agency, recently established a Center for Applied Space Medicine and Human Research to promote the exploration issue and also the utilization of the space environment in space. And of course, so we can expect something happening in space and the result come back on the people on the Earth. And then if I think the space medicine and human research has a great possibility to support the better way of living on the Earth. And one thing is exploration. Actually, the space medicine actually support to the exploration by developing new technology to keep human safe and productive in space. And if we think about the utilization in space in science, of course, we want to know about the gravity sensing, threshold, and also the mechanisms, which we will not be able to understand or discover unless we depart from Earth to utilize like international facility like International Space Station. And of course, even if we think about the optimal G level, we don't know, because on the Earth there's no choice for us. It's always 1G. But if you go to the International Space Station, you can get the viable G level for research. Then we will be able to understand what kind of G level for the optimal for us. So that kind of science is great. And at the same time, if I think about the benefits from the space program, I think because the exploration requires quite a lot of problem-solving type of space medicine and also the human research. So through countermeasures, which we have already developed, and this type, I think Anatoly can explain more about the countermeasures issue, because Russia and the US has a great experience. but I believe that quite a lot of things can be applied to the Earth. Like food safety is one of them, nutrition and mental health, and the exercise or health education. And if we think about the behavioral performance issue, like circadian rhythms issue, and also the sleep-work cycle for the shift workers. And even if we think about the environmental issue, like a bacterial environment, noise environment, anyhow, it's anything related to the environmental issue, also including the reuse of the resources, like recycling, like Bill mentioned. So it is also very good. So I can just give some two maybe examples. We have tons of examples, I think. But for example, like a food safety, like hazard analysis and critical control points, that is also developed by the space program and which we use daily. And if we think about the accident which happened in the Chile, like Copiapo mining accident happened in 2010, like a Chilean mining accident. Actually, after the accident, NASA flight surgeons are being called to support that they trapped the people by giving some information which was obtained from the space technology and space medicine and human research, like psychology issue, environmental issue, lighting, hygiene, and bacteria and humidity or something like that. And JAXA also sent some underwear, which is antibacterial underwear, so less cleaning but less bacterial had happened. So that kind of material has been tested in space. So quite a lot of things that I think we can make the life on the Earth better. And then the last, but I would like to introduce some way to approach to think about the utilization of space and also the benefit on the ground. Most of the people think like Teflon penny things, something like that. Like spin off is the major thing that we think that the benefits from space. But I also think that the spinning in from the Earth technology into the space program, it's also a great potential and possibility so that we can mix together in space and Earth use. Like for example, space is one of the showcase. Like advantages that we use space as a spinning in on the Earth, the ground-based technology into space is a showcase because space is such a harsh environment, radiation, confined, and also the microgravity. So if something works in that harsh environment, then that technology or device or idea, the protocol will be able to help a lot on the people living on the Earth. So it's a great showcase to demonstrate the great technology, and that everybody from the world are watching on, for example, the International Space Station. So if you just bring your devices into the International Space Station, it's a great showcase to advertise your technology, your method, your hardware, etc. So that is one way, one thing that advantages for. And also, if we can just bring the spinning idea, more choices for crew, astronauts or cosmonauts to make their life closer to the one on the Earth. So I think unless we make the space life closer to the Earth, I think the space development has only very limited, I think. We have done these 50 years quite a lot of development in the space program. So now I think the space life, space work are supposed to be safe and more comfortable, like the one that we have on the Earth. And also, by spinning in, we can reduce the cost and the time to develop. So again, I would like to emphasize spin off as well as spin in. It's very important to develop this kind of idea. So by ending, I believe space medicine and human research has a great potential and capability to improve the quality of life on Earth. So thank you very much.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to share with you some thoughts from the perspective of Directorate for Human Spaceflight and Operations on the societal impacts of human spaceflight. And societal impacts, of course, mean benefits, and I think already using the word impacts and putting it across to benefits shows a little bit a slight dilemma we are in. Jan Werner has already addressed it. I think amongst us we are pretty on one line in terms of what the benefits of spaceflight are, so I don't think that there is any doubt about it. However, one weak area is that benefits are largely understood really benefits in a very utilitarian aspect. So for every euro, every dollar that we invest, we expect to have a multiple of that as a kind of turnover coming. And I think in this respect it is very important that all of us help to extend this understanding of the word benefit in the way as it has already been addressed, i.e. in the direction of the benefit, the direct benefit in terms of inspiration, of education, just enlarging our knowledge. In that sense, the upcoming ministerial conference of ESA is under the motto of space for growth and competitiveness, and certainly this shall address a little bit the aspect that what we are doing in space is supposed to help us here to improve life on Earth and to bring benefits. Now, having said that, of course there are these aspects of improving our life, and there are, I think, three important criteria that play a role. Space systems, to design them, we need to go to extreme lightweight structures, they need to have an extreme high reliability, work under harsh environment, and be very economic in the resources they are consuming. Now, I'm not talking about the launch part. This is quite resource intensive, but once the systems are in orbit, they need to fulfill basically these three criteria. And those are criteria that are extremely important in all various other industrial areas. Now, of course, International Space Station is, from our perspective, from my perspective, the platform that we are using to show how we can return our investment in terms of new scientific knowledge and new services that we develop up there. Just as a little side remark, on the lower part you see ATV3 last night has re-entered the Earth atmosphere, so it has successfully completed its mission, which is good. It's a little bit a sad moment for me to say that, because it's a great piece of hardware that has now burned up over the South Atlantic uninhabited area and splashed down in the sea, and we are on our way to prepare ATV4 for its launch next year. So having said that, let me come to a few areas that are the core areas of our European program, ELIPS, which stands for European Program for Life and Physical Sciences, and which demonstrate where we really have the emphasis for increasing or improving benefit for the citizens here. First, the area of technology and innovation. You see here some areas of doing experiments related to the so-called PK3 plasma crystal experiment, looking at colloidal aggregates, emulsions under microgravity, and in order to build smart, advanced materials. The PK3 facility, actually I had the pleasure to operate that in 2006 during my mission. Even though that can be related to fundamental research, there are every once in a while some very interesting side developments, and in fact, even though it was not originally foreseen to do that, but this facility and this part of research now has led into an industrial development for disinfecting materials, hence like for medical applications, very efficiently, very short time with so-called cold plasmas. I don't think that this was initially intended to do so, but the fact that this was applied, it was brought to space, all of a sudden opened this new venue. Second area you see here is related to looking at solidification processes in materials to improve casting processes for producing new lightweight materials. For example, in airplane engines, there is one very interesting example related to an alloy, titanium aluminate, which is estimated to give a turnover in the next couple of years of about 2 billion euros, and that is really based on this research. Last example, containerless high precision measurement of industrial alloys. There are still a lot of processes during the solidification, during melting alloys which are not well understood, transport processes like diffusion, and doing that in a containerless environment using micro-G is of course perfect in discriminating other transport effects like thermal convection from effects like diffusion, which are otherwise embedded in these overarching effects if we do it here on ground. Second area is of course related to life research in the area of human life sciences. Of course, here it is important to understand the mechanisms of osteoporosis. We are all aware that this is a widespread disease, and the real mechanisms that are leading to the outbreak of this disease are not yet very well understood. We can fight the symptoms, but here there have been in the last years a lot of very interesting developments. For example, understanding the effect of sodium in this overall metabolic process. And I think in this respect, the textbooks for medicine will be rewritten or have already been rewritten, because those mechanisms run differently, and that is understood due to the experiments that we have done in space. Muscle atrophy, of course, something which is important in various situations here on Earth, if we have to stay in bed during a disease for a long time, or with aging people. So understanding and fighting these effects is something where we can make a big contribution from space. Physiological changes observed in microgravity, of course, provide here important clues. And another example you see here on the right side, an experiment that I was involved in a few years ago, is looking into inflammation effects in the respiratory tract. How can we more quickly detect that, and which measures we can take in order to correct it. And again, the microgravity environment is ideal for exactly looking to these areas. Life, ISS for life in the area of biology. Here an example is related to understanding the biochemical processes that play a role in growth of plants. There are two basic mechanisms where gravity plays a role, or let's say one, that is the so-called gravitropism. We know the roots are always going in the direction of gravity, the rest of the plant is going opposite to the gravity. And then there is the effect of light, phototropism, where it is exactly opposite. So the roots are going opposite to the light, the rest of the plant is going in the direction of light. Now this is caused by biochemical processes in the plant. If we go into microgravity and we lower the level of gravity by using centrifuges, we see that all of a sudden things are changing and help us to understand exactly what are the mechanisms that bring plants exactly to do what I have just been describing. That in long term helps, of course, not only understanding the processes, which is a value by itself, but it helps, for example, to have plants being more resistant against certain diseases and more resistant against droughts. Also, ISS is used more and more for the area of Earth observation. We brought up an experiment on board Columbus, the AIS, Automatic Identification System for ships. So this, I'm sure, will be used in future to a larger extent, using ISS as a platform for testing sensors before they are really then operated onboard satellites. They can be optimized and then brought to its application in a satellite environment. almost last but not least is ISS for education. I mentioned that. This is a direct benefit which cannot easily be measured in terms of money turnover, but it is very, very important, and once again I think it is our task in the space community to communicate this to our politicians, that also the benefits which not can be directly measured in a financial turnover are important. And we all know a lot of educational programs are running as we are sitting here on ISS to engage pupils all over the world to get fascinated and take their decisions for their future careers. And last but not least, a few words on, of course, the future. ISS is a platform to test new exploration technologies. Exploration is in our genes. It is just part of our evolution, and this is a benefit as well, even though it cannot be directly measured in financial turnover. So we need to use ISS exactly in that sense in order to prepare the next steps beyond low Earth orbit, and as Jan said at the end of his presentation, to go to areas where man and human have never gone before. Thank you very much.
I represent the Canadian Space Agency. My name is Jean-Marc Comtois. Because of my background, I will limit or use the examples that are associated with medicine or healthcare. Space can be defined as a remote, isolated, extreme, adverse environment. However, space doesn't have the monopoly on this definition. We can ask any Canadian living in the Arctic Circle during the winter months, for that matter, all year long. So it makes sense to me that technologies that allow humans to survive in an extreme remote environment can be applied and developed also to support the humans in their terrestrial equivalent. Such a case is in microflow, which is a technology demonstration that will go into the ISS in January of this year, coming up in 2013. Microflow is a flow cytometer that is usually reserved for big hospitals, big research lab. This is a portable, very rugged tool that will allow astronauts to monitor their health, do blood tests in space, do other analysis, and contribute to research. And because this technology is rugged and portable, it can be exported to physicians and healthcare providers' offices in the remote community and improve the healthcare of individuals by keeping them at home, by monitoring them better on an ongoing basis, by allowing early diagnosis should they be, and hopefully prevent false positive medical evacuations. Sometimes in developing space technology, you gain a significant heritage from this development. Such is the case in the Canadarm2. Canadarm2 was a Canadian contribution to the ISS, and it was an extremely important tool, an essential tool for the assembly of the ISS. The Seaman Magnetic Resonance Center in Calgary and MDA Space Divisions got together and they developed together a NeuroArm using the technological development that they've done in developing Canadarm2. And using this heritage, they were able to develop that tool at a much lower cost. Interesting that NeuroArm 2 is coming up shortly, and this surgical robot will be allowing the surgeons to do surgery with real-time MRI imaging. The benefits to the patients is obvious, it's more accurate, less invasive, and therefore the quality of life of the patient will be dramatically improved by using this technology. But the other untold benefit is the developmental costs are much lower. They were able to develop the NeuroArm at a mere $40 million as opposed to the hundreds of millions of dollars it would have cost to develop it should they not have the heritage from Canadarm2. However, the biggest potential I think we can bring to the societal benefits from the space program is the way we do research. We all face significant fiscal constraints. All nations on Earth are facing those. And we propose that the shared problem innovation, open innovation model will bring together some multiple problem owners, multiple solutions providers to come up with the final solution. The challenge in bringing non-traditional partners to work together because they bring in different cultures, they bring different expertise. They may not even know that they're part of the solution is to the formulation of the problem. And I'd like to expand a bit on this. The exploration challenge is, as we explore beyond low Earth orbit, we're going to have to face, the prolonged exposure to microgravity and the adverse effects on the human body. We will have to face prolonged exposure to radiation or prolonged confinement and isolation, as well as distances and communication delays will make it extremely difficult to provide a medical evacuation for the sick or injured astronaut, or perhaps provide real-time medical intervention in time-critical medical emergencies going on. So as we move forward into exploration in space, we need to move from the current telemedicine paradigm to medical autonomy. Presented this way, this problem is absolutely owned by space agencies. However, if the problem is presented this way, timely delivery of healthcare in a resource-constrained environment to a level of care that is acceptable, then by presenting the problem this way, suddenly the problem owners multiply, solution providers multiply. And they still will help you look at the medical autonomy concept that is necessary for exploration class missions, but as well they may come up with novel solutions that are for terrestrial applications that may be applicable to space. With this in mind, the CSA held a workshop that was co-hosted by CSA and Canadian Institute of Health Research, looking at linkages and collaborative possibilities between the aging research community and the space health research community. And they identified that there was indeed some problems that are common. And what space brought to the equation is, going to space brought a model for rapid aging in a very healthy population, and returning from space brought a model for regeneration or readaptation. So the bottom line is there's synergies between those two groups, and CSA is planning to hold international workshops in the spring of next year. I'd like to conclude by a remark that with the fact that now that we've learned to live and work in space, now that the ISS is operational, more than ever human space exploration is positioned to benefit humanity. However, we will face significant challenge, whether those challenges are funding, whether they're intellectual property issues, or whether they're medical confidentiality of information. But I'm very confident because of the leadership of the Multilateral Control Board and the ISS program, because of the work done by the ISS Experts Working Group, especially Team 5, that we will find solutions to these issues. It's very comforting when I look at the work done by those groups that the speech of President Kennedy in 1962 is still very applicable today. So I thank you very much for your attention.
Доброе утро, уважаемые коллеги.
Good morning, distinguished colleagues.
Во-первых, мне хотелось бы представить профессора Козловского.
First of all, I will introduce Dr. Kozlovsky,
который любезно согласился мне сегодня помочь.
who kindly agreed to help me with translation.
Мы работаем с ним более 30 лет по разработке средств коррекции и профилактики изменений, которые возникают в космонавтах при длительном полете.
Together with her, we are working for more than 30 years for developing of means and methods of prevention of negative effects of weightlessness which appear in weightlessness.
И более 20 лет мы с ней пытаемся различные методы, которые разрабатывают для космического полета, использовать для задач наземной медицины.
And more than 20 years we try to use the many methods which we are developing for our cosmonaut to implement for human being on the Earth.
Перед тем, как рассказать вам о некоторых методах, которые используются для задач наземной медицины, которые пришли из космоса, мне хотелось бы несколько слов сказать об общей философии космической медицины.
I would like to start with the global main philosophy which comes from space medicine.
Мне кажется, что самое главное даже не в том, что мы многие из тех средств, которые разрабатываем для задач космической медицины, все чаще и чаще, шире и шире используем наземной медицине.
The meaning of this work, it is not only that we more and more frequent use the needs and methods and devices which we develop for space medicine in our on-ground practice.
Если медицина клиническая, наземная, это медицина о больном человеке,
because if the ground medicine, it is the knowledges about the patient, about sick persons.
И главная задача врача – диагностировать болезнь и ее вылечить.
And the main purpose of the physician, the main challenge of the physician is to diagnose the sickness and to make the person healthy.
То главная задача космической медицины – это оценить уровень здоровья здорового человека.
But for the space medicine, the main task is to assess the level of health of healthy human being.
И максимально предпринять меры различные для того, чтобы сохранить это здоровье.
And make everything necessary to keep this health.
Поэтому знание о здоровом человеке, знание о его резервных возможностях является важнейшим составным элементом, который космическая медицина вносит в клиническую практику.
So the main contribution which the space medicine brings into the on-ground clinic medicine, it is knowledges about the functional reserves of a healthy human being.
Используя такие модели, как, допустим, гипокинезия для решения космических задач, мы накопили огромный материал по влиянию сниженной двигательной активности на различные системы организма.
Using such developed by space medicine models as the hypokinesia, long-term hypokinesia, we have collected enormous amount of knowledges about the effects of hypokinetic state on human being.
И эти знания очень активно используются в практической медицине.
And the practice medicine use these knowledges very actively.
А отрицательное влияние гипокинезии все шире и шире сказывается на человечестве.
And the negative effect of hypokinesia became more and more knowledgeable to human beings, and they affect humanity more and more.
Для того, чтобы предотвратить снижение двигательной активности в космическом полете, используют костюм пингвина.
For one of the means to prevent the negative effect of recklessness in space flight, it is the loading suit penguin,
который создает увеличенную продольную нагрузку на структуру скелета.
which is loaded extra loading of skeleton.
И повышает резистивную мышечную активность.
And so increase the activity and state of the muscular system.
На основании технологии этого костюма была создана наземная модель для лечения больных детским церебральным параличом.
And this suit became a basis for very effective new rehabilitation mean, children loading suit for rehabilitation of children with cerebral palsy.
Этот костюм позволяет выработать навыки ходьбы, закрепить новый двигательный стереотип и существенным образом облегчает страдания детей.
This suit helps to make children walk, children who never walked before. That's fine. This suit helps and allows to rehabilitate the skills skills of locomotion and posture in these children, and now it is very widely used in Russia in more than 70 centers of cerebral palsy children.
В последующем была разработана новая модель этого костюма, костюм Реги.
Later we have developed the new model, which is suit Regen, which was developed specially for a very wide population of people suffered, they needed rehabilitation after stroke, head trauma, and the others. It is as widely used now as the other suit for children. Yeah. Yes, and this is for us already, for old people.
Поскольку при длительном ограничении двигательной активности нарушается и проприоцептивная активность, в частности зон стопы,
since the weightlessness disturb also the muscle, the proprioceptive, both channels of proprioceptive activity, which is muscle activity, and very important, the system, it is weight bearing or support accreditation signaling system. They are destroyed or just taken away in weightlessness.
Был разработан прибор, который аналог такого прибора стимулирует опорные зоны.
So to fight the effect of this, we have developed the device which we call space food, which simulate the support zones of the soles.
Здесь показано, как различные зоны головного мозга реагируют на раздражение зон стопы.
And here it is shown as this stimulation affect the activity of brain.
Эффективно используются и другие модели, другие способы, другие средства.
And these two examples which we showed, this is just small part of many others devices and approaches which we apply on the ground, taken from space medicine.
В неврологической практике очень эффективно сейчас используется модель иммерсии. Длительное время погружается в воду.
Now, in clinical practice, they are using the model of dry immersion. It means the environment when the person is immersed in water, but separated from the water by very thin material. Yeah.
травматологической, ортопедической практике используется искусственная центрифуга коротким радиусом.
Yes. And in the orthopedic and traumatology practice, they use now very broadly also the artificial gravity. Yes.
Которая усиливает нагрузку на опорный двигатель и способствует большей скорости нормализации синтеза костной ткани.
Yeah, it was shown that artificial gravity stimulates the synthesis of osteosynthesis and helps very much to healing of bone much faster than it is without it.
Во многих странах наших, те, кто занимается космической медициной, разрабатываются новые элементы телемедицины.
And in our country, and as well as in the others, now broad development get the telemedicine, which came from space medicine.
Новые сенсоры, которые позволяют регистрировать те или иные физиологические показатели.
They are developed already and continue developing the new sensors for telemetric practice.
На этой схеме вы видите, как широко используются знания, средства и методы, полученные в области космической медицины.
And this scheme just demonstrates in how many different areas of medicine we now already have the space medicine mean and approaches implemented.
Но, завершая вот свое короткое выступление, мне хотелось бы вновь вернуться к той философии, которая космическая медицина вносит в медицину земную.
And concluding, I would like to came again to the our first entrance to our talk, emphasizing how many excellent ideas and things the space medicine brings back to the Earth medicine.
Это 3P.
I would call it by name started with 3P.
Кстати, вчера вот в ресторане мне сказали, что в Неаполе тоже главенствующий 3P.
Yesterday in the restaurant, I was told that in Neapel, in their food, it is the main 3P: pasta, pizza, and pomodoro.
А вот космическая медицина 3P, которая вносит здравоохранение, превентивность.
And in space medicine, which is extremely important for the Earth medicine, it is preventivity of space medicine, predictivity in space medicine, and personalization in space medicine.
И я думаю, что вот то, что космическая медицина свои знания использует и для поддержания здоровья человека на Земле, и в космосе, является большим достижением.
And I'm quite sure that this usage of that we came to this usage, broad usage of space means and methods, approaches on the board. This is one of the great achievements of space.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Let's please join me in giving the panel another round of applause. Just one announcement. If you'd like to continue the dialogue around Earth-space benefits, please go to the Global Networking Forum. It's in the exhibit hall. It will be running for about another 4 or 5 hours a day with different topics. It's in exhibit hall 2, the Global Networking Forum, that many speakers will be continuing on through the day. So we may have time for 1 or 2 questions if there are any from the audience. Yes.
I have a question about the revolution in brain research, which has an aspect just related to learning, related to performance, and related to aging. So what do you believe that human spaceflight can contribute significantly in making progress in these three areas? Neuroscience, brain research, learning, aging.
From the aging perspective, certainly this is one of the problem area that has been identified as being shared with the space community. The impact of on the performance, cognitive function on performance, the impact on the environment on cognitive function, lack of sleep on cognitive function, and so on. So it's very early on, but certainly there's going to be some parallel that can be drawn and lessons learned from the space research into the aging community. And it's not a single-way avenue, it's not a one-way avenue, it's a two-way avenue, because we may also better understand what's happening in space from doing research on the terrestrial community.
And let me suggest also, if you have more questions, because the next session will start at 10:15, again, I'll point you to the Global Networking Forum. It would be a great opportunity to talk to more of the panelists today. So I want to thank the panel again very much. It was an excellent session. Thank you all for attending.